There he is. We're doing good. I had a little bit of a good morning. Got out and took care of some stuff. Didn't hit the gym, just was moving a bunch of old convention stuff out of my parents' vacation home into my house. So I am getting ready for Lightbox Expo 2023 in Pasadena, California, in about a month. And if it's going to be in a month, that means that if I need to order things like prints and I need to like package those prints, I need to get my my fucking shit together. So I am going to be taking inventory of all of the bits and bobs that I have. Morning, next tea. Fell asleep, so didn't go to school. Just chilling today. That's one way to get the day done. So I've got to get all of my convention stuff together. Whoa. Okay, do it default. I've got to get all my convention stuff together for one of the very first times in a long time. And it's stressing me out a little bit. Haven't done this in a bit. And the main problem with it is that I don't remember what I have and what I don't have. So, I have a conundrum here today. I picked this reference image, and I could go and rotate the canvas 90 degrees, like this. I like this 5x7 format as my study format, and this piece is like kind of wider than it is tall, but just by a little bit. And I could probably crop it. Like I could crop it into like a vaguely 5x7 format, I think. And it's fine. But there's something about getting to see the whole like mass of the headdress. I think maybe just doing it landscape mode like this might be the play. Might be the play. Screen Z in the house. Del Monster, hello. Lots of familiar faces. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon or good night, depending on where you are. I'm gonna do the study. I'm gonna do the study today. There are many other days where I've done a study, and today is one of them. Okay, so this is gonna be, if this is 5 inches tall, I'm gonna set the reference to be 5 inches tall also. That way I can get these things scaled the same heights. Because having references that are of different scale, it throws me off. Maybe it's easy mode. Maybe I'm doing it baby style. I kind of don't care. I've been happy with this as format. Sever Rain. Very ambitious today. I don't think it is that ambitious. This is like, it's very textural. So I think planning ahead, I want to have the face look really good. So at some point I'm going to like kind of work through, the plan is to sort of start with like the whole sort of shading across the head, break it down into some smaller or some larger features, and then get in there with the detail and maybe spend a little too much time polishing it up so I have this nice focal area. A couple of really good crisp and creamy folds with the dress. Definitely going to do those. And then I have this very textural headdress thing. And there's some bit of different texture because we've got these chains that are very crunchy. And then we've got these like more, softer, flowery bits. And then the pointy stuff. And I think that a different approach to each of them is going to give them a little bit of their own unique character and bring out what is interesting about this piece. So with planning for that, I'm really just not going to get into trying to measure out where all these individual points are. It doesn't really add up to anything. So the base thing is like, let's just make sure that the girl is more or less correct in her proportion. And then we can go fucking crazy on the headdress. I mean, they already did that once. We can follow their example. I'm trying to learn from watching. Yeah, I mean, if there's anything to learn from watching me do this, I would say that the thing to learn is that you can learn yourself by just repeating this process. Like there's a lot about drawing that you can only learn by just doing it, and you can't learn how to draw exclusively from copying photo references the way I do here. Like you really have to mix it in with some more imaginative work as well. She's got this wrap around the chest. It's like her shoulders are being hidden quite a bit by this headdress, so as I'm trying to plan out what's happening underneath it, I need to make sure I'm being mindful of all that. Really not getting a really amazing looking drawing here today. But as I start to build the context for it, I'm sure I'll figure it out. I'm going to do what I can at every step to make sure I elucidate what my thought process is on all this, but yeah, art is a thing that is learned through participating in it. Oh, thank you so much. Glad you liked the Barachial piece. At the time I made it, I wasn't sure if I was making the worst piece of art I'd ever made, or if it was maybe going to be, because it was a little different than what I was typically making. But I look back on it now and go, oh, dang, I actually really like that. I remember feeling like it was kind of experimental at the time. Wanted to ask you the multiple bindings to switch opacity flow of the brush. In Photoshop, the default bindings are the number keys. So if you have it in airbrush mode, I think which is this thing on, the number keys change the flow. And if you have the airbrush mode off, the number keys change the opacity. And you just type it in. You can try 45, you get 45. And if you just hit 8, you get 80. And then if you hold Shift, you can adjust the flow. So Shift 1 gave me 10% flow. So if I wanted 80%, or 60% opacity, it's 6. And if I want flow at 40%, it'd be Shift 4. So I usually leave the flow at a standard rate. I usually keep it down around 10%. It's really dependent on your brush spacing. So however your brush is spaced, if they're spaced tighter, you need to keep the flow lower. And if they're spaced further apart, you can raise the flow up. And then the opacity is the only thing I really kind of modulate up and down. And so I will bang the number keys to make that work. This is such a like this figure right now is just like, it's so stocky and like stiff and boring and out of proportion. Yeah, if you guys ever have any questions about basics of Photoshop, I love being able to give answers to basic questions. They're so easy to get right. Makes me feel smart. Are you keeping all these studies somewhere? I'm posting them all on the Discord. I have to hit that button every time I say Discord. I have them in the dailies channel, and then I keep a sketchbook on there where I'm keeping all those posted. But I've been getting that question more and more, so maybe I should find some place to put them all. I'm getting perilously close to having 100 studies, so I thought maybe after I do 100, I will make some sort of blog post or video or something and catalog the larger process in some way. Maybe an Insta highlight? Oh, that's a good idea. I've been posting some of them on my stories. I don't like using social media as an archive because it's like it's so biased to recency. There's ways to like look further back in people's accounts, but like most of what it does is just like show you what they've been doing recently, and what I'm most interested in when it comes to like if there's a whole collection, like it is so much easier to like create a website for it. You can build it beautifully using Squarespace, is what I hear. I listen to a lot of podcasts. Oh, okay. Yeah, well, I'm glad that the Insta posts are capturing some people's attention. It feels difficult to get like people to notice stuff on Instagram, get them to go to other websites. But yeah, I'll just keep. I'm gonna keep posting on there because it seems like a free way to just spam people. Is just hit those stories, and I'm making a new one of these every few days, so it's easy to just keep spamming the stories with new ones. I'll keep doing that, and then yeah, I'll put together an archive or something with a little explainer about like, what I was thinking, what I was doing. You say that every study, that they all seem hard. I mean, some of them are really hard. When I saw this, I was like, oh, is this like, is there not enough going on? Because like the figure is not particularly, there's not a lot going on in terms of the pose or the lighting. It's just really stock and straightforward. And then there's a giant fucking headdress. Then there's like all of this stuff here, which doesn't need to be. At first I'm like making lines and then it's just like loopy marks, because who cares? I'll get back to this. Spend some time with this later. I mean, but that's kind of it, right? This first step doesn't have a lot going on. Now, where do I want to go from here? Block in some really loose values, maybe? Is my flow, should my flow be higher? It was like, this paintbrush is behaving differently than I'm expecting. I wonder if the flow is normally higher up. CGViz, CGNviz, Kigniviz. Do you use a screen tablet like a Cintiq or just a non-screen tablet? Non-screen tablet gang. Pen tablet gang for life. I love pen tablets. I love pen tablet. I love the way they feel. I like the way they look. I like their price. I like the ergonomics of them. I like the smell. I hate screen tablets. Pfft. Screen tablets are for people who can't appreciate the finer things in life, like a good pen tablet. I'm not in the line work gang. Don't flump me in with the line work people. How dare you? I never line work. I'm terrible at it. I would never. How about an iPad? Even worse. iPad is maybe I have an iPad Pro 10 and a half inch. I spent a couple of $1,000s on it a while back. It's like an older, now it's like an older version because I've got like an Apple Pencil 1. And every time I've picked it up to like paint or draw, either the pencil or the iPad's out of batteries. And when I do pick it up and draw with it, sometimes I go, ooh, this is actually kind of interesting. And then every other time I'm just like, I wish I was drawing with an actual pencil. This is annoying. It's frustrating to use. It's like the ergonomics of it are bad. I'm getting paranoid about how much battery I'm using. I'm getting paranoid about the fact that it's recording me. I like everything about it drives me a little bit crazy, and the whatever benefits it has do not outweigh like the downsides for me. Just I like it less than paper and pencil. Paper and pencil is so insanely powerful. There's nothing that matches the fidelity of it. What was my VTuber method? I took an old painting of mine and I chopped it up. I made a lot of assumptions about how the VTube stuff was going to work. I watched half a tutorial and then I proceeded to call it good enough. That was my method. I don't know if that qualifies as a method. I feel like methods usually involve like foresight and planning, careful consideration. I was using 2D Live. I think that's the one software most people use for 2D VTubers. 2D Live seems to be the standard. It seems like you could make some really good, interesting stuff with it. It's kind of wonky in its own special way. And so if you were to learn it really good, I think you could make like really elaborate, great looking stuff. I think that's what a lot of the VTubers are made in. I really like digital painting. Digital painting is great because digital paint does a lot of things that are impossible with traditional paint, and then it does them really fast and easy, and it makes like the process of making art more fun and involved for me. So I really love digital painting, but digital drawing I find to be kind of a pain in the ass. I think digital drawing is worse than regular traditional drawing. But I'm getting outnumbered by a lot of Zoomers that all love their working in Procreate. And I think that I feel like very boomery as soon as I start to like get into like waxing philosophical about like the wonderful qualities of working in pencil. And I just imagine this like army of like 20-year-olds all like, their entire art careers have existed on their iPads. I definitely feel a little out of touch. But I'm right. I'm not going to flinch because I'm right. Is this why I draw on pencil and paper and scan it digitally? Yes, because it gives me a better result. Like, it's not a dogmatic thing. I always start my mainline works on pencil because I get better drawings working on pencil. And for my mainline stuff, I want the best possible results. So I insist on using pencil. In 10 years, all the Zoomer artists are going to think of you as the guy who prints his emails to read them. I feel like drawing on paper is the sort of like art equivalent of printing your emails to read them. Hello, Max Kalaman. I had tried ZBrush a while back. I think digital sculpting is really cool. Learning Blender and ZBrush is one of those things that like I've been meaning to do because it seems like a cool extra ability to have. I'm currently working with some sculptors, like hiring them to work on a project with me. So I like, I'm watching other people sculpt my characters right now, and it's cool. And I keep thinking, dang, I should be able to get in there and like participate. There's definitely some sculptures I would want to make if I were to take the time to like really commit to a project. If I was like, I really do want to have a sculpture project be on my plate one of these days. Okay. I feel like structurally this thing's in pretty good shape. I'm going to do my soft brush thing, and then I'm going to carve in a background real quick. And then we're making fast work of this one. This might be really easy, but it also might turn out really bad. The thing that keeps me away from ZBrush is just my recalcitrance to like, like I just am reluctant to learn new software because I know it's like a commitment to learn a new piece of software. And so I just like, I go, oh yeah, I would love to check that out, but I'm busy. I got a lot to do, so I'm just gonna, I'll get to it later. We had a 66-year-old manager that I swear went through the ream of paper to read like 3 days worth of emails. Yeah. How many hours a day do I practice? I've been practicing between like 4 and 7 days a week for the last few months, and I've been spending about 2 hours per session on it. Before that, I never practiced. I mean, in a 20-year art career, I literally never practiced. I just make personal projects. That was my version of practice, was just making paintings. This is creating a kind of cool wet edge effect at the border of the headdress here. It's kind of good. Looks kind of good. Hey, addict. Yeah, that chick's got a big hat. She got a big hat, guys. I don't know if any of you noticed that this hat is like a lot bigger than it normally would be. When I have a hat, it's like a regular sized hat, not like a big hat. This is a big hat. If I saw this chick walking around at a baseball game, I'd be like, hey there, just in case you didn't realize, your hat's really big. Dandelion cosplay? Yeah, I could see it. Don't put a big, don't blow too hard near this lady. Her whole hat could fly apart. Fertilize an entire meadow with hats. Look at this. Pointy. Do Twitch streamings come back to every day except for weekends, or remain Monday, Wednesday, Friday? Oh, I don't know. It's like, that's the thing, is like one of the things I'm dealing with right now is that I'm not getting enough done on like my structured offline projects. My building a curriculum for Huckleberry, not happening fast enough. My working on finishing up the major arcana on the tarot deck, not happening fast enough. And like, I feel like I'm not moving towards extreme burnout now that I'm like taking. See, like the thing is that I stream on a large Discord server once every Tuesday. So I was streaming twice on Tuesdays before, and then I've started teaching a class on Thursday mornings. So I have a 2.5 hour like talking session on those days also. So it's not like I have any days off. I'm just streaming in more private places on Tuesdays and Thursdays, and then I'm streaming in, on here on Twitch in public uh, 3 days a week. So there's really not like, I don't have days off except for on the weekends, which I really, really need to recharge. Otherwise, I like very quickly move towards burning out. Um, so like if I were to no longer have those engagements on Tuesdays, I would probably stream on Tuesdays. But the thing is that I also want to expand my class roster, and that would mean extra dates for the classes also. So like I really don't want to be doing like a 2.5 hour talking session followed by a stream, like a 2 hour stream where I'm talking in public. It's too much for me. And so like there's already a bit of a struggle with the gear change that I have to do, because streaming, it takes a certain amount of like mental power, and then like to gear change back into like what I normally do, it takes a little bit of extra effort. So it's like if I'm taking care of stuff in the morning, I'm working in like wearing one hat, and then I switch over, I put on my streamer hat, and then switching my hat like a third time to get back into another project in the afternoon, I find to be really, really tough, especially since I finish streaming sometime around 2 or 3 o'clock. And on like days where I'm feeling really ambitious, I'll sometimes do that, and then I'll work till like 8 or 9 at night. But recently, I've been in kind of a low energy mode, and I haven't been able to pull that off. So I don't know. Like the idea of streaming 5 days a week again feels pretty tough. We'll see. We'll see what happens. It seems where my priorities land. I want to rearrange after October. I think I'm going to rearrange the way I schedule my days. So I might end up rescheduling when I do the Twitch streams, and that might end up either that's either going to mean I'm going to stream less, or it might mean I'm going to stream more. I don't know. But I need to put some of these other projects as my like top priority thing. That's like in the center of my day. That's the the thing that happens before I do something like Twitch streaming. That way I'm not like I'm not losing months of progress on like important projects in order to make sure that I have a regular streaming schedule. Because I like the streaming a lot, and it's been really, really productive as far as keeping me on track with the studies and stuff. But it really hasn't been good for the overall health of my other projects. So I need to take the whole big picture seriously. So I'm gonna push around the schedule a little bit in October, after October, and then so starting in November we'll see what happens. It'll be interesting. I really would like to just keep streaming on a regular schedule, especially with doing studies and stuff. Because, I really, like, I'm really big on trying to build Huckleberry right now. And it's like, I want to demonstrate what it means to learn art is to, like, get out there and just do it, whether you're good at it or bad at it or whatever. So I feel like I want to lead through example on this idea of, like, making stuff, publishing stuff, like doing studies, and like trying out new things. Because one of the things that I've got planned for the immediate future in terms of my study is to, rather than just always do these photo studies, I want to switch it up a little bit. I'm going to be doing Drawtober. The plan is like my plans are all kind of getting mushed up right now, but like the plan is to do Drawtober throughout October and do like all pencil work in October. Do some imaginative pencil work is like the main thing I was focusing on, doing these weekly prompts in pencil. And I was going to maybe stream some of that. And then I'm planning on doing a gouache course with a former student of mine, Justin Donaldson. He has built his own set of courses that look amazing. And I was going to be taking one. And he was like saying, oh, yeah, the next session's in October. And I'm like, oh. I'm traveling in October, and I was also trying to commit to Drawtober. So it's like maybe January, maybe March, I'm going to switch over to doing all gouache for like a month or so, 8 weeks, so 2 months. I was going to do all gouache instead of working digitally. So I was going to work in traditional media. And like, I love working in traditional media. I just haven't committed to it a lot. So gouache is a really friendly medium. It's cheap, it transports well, it doesn't require a lot of other gear. So I wanted to like learn a little bit about how Justin works and like, you know, see how he runs his courses and stuff like that. And so I'm really excited to do that course and then also broadcast a lot of my work with it. And so that's going to change like the way I stream as well, because I'm going to be probably streaming from my wife's office, because she has like a drawing desk with natural light and stuff. I don't think I can do gouache here in the bunker. Hey, Noise Freak, welcome. Yeah, I've got a dedicated workspace for digital. I have a dedicated workspace for my office, but I don't have a dedicated workspace for traditional work. But my wife has set up a really wonderful dedicated space in her office, and she has maybe hinted a little bit about me being able to take it over for specialty stuff like, you know, doing gouache or, you know, streaming, me doing pencil work, stuff like that. So we'll see. That'd be cool. I'd really love to be able to stream me doing traditional media also, because as I'm getting more and more comfortable with these studies, like I'm going to have to up my discomfort level somehow. And that's going to require me to like switch goals. Yeah, gouache seems really fun. I see people use it, and it's like, it's really interesting. It looks a bit like acrylic, which I've had a great time with. And so like, I'm like, all right, well, it's like kind of like acrylic, kind of like watercolor. I'm not sure. My wife uses it sometimes, and she does great things with it, and she's like traditionally a watercolor artist, so I don't know, maybe it makes a certain amount of sense to a certain type of people. Clearly there's some artists that like really make gouache sing. I might be naturally terrible at it. We're going to find out together. I'm going to commit to 8 weeks of nothing but gouache work. Well, not nothing. I'll be working on my other projects and stuff, but as far as study materials go, I'll do 8 weeks of gouache study. You get to see whether or not I suck at it or if I'm amazing. Could be a gouache genius, actually. Now I think about it. I could be like maybe the best gouache painter of all time, and I just haven't discovered that that's my medium. You know what, maybe let's just say I probably am. I'm going to guess that like I've never touched this stuff, but I'd say there's a really decent chance that I might be the best gouache painter ever. And that like maybe I just need to discover my true calling. What do you think? That'd be sick. I bet the world would be really excited to learn that there's actually like this person who's like this incredible genius out there, you know, that I've been out here the whole time, and that quietly I've been like this incredible genius, and the world hadn't even realized it yet, but now I'm going to discover it, you know, like this January. That'd be sick. That's sick for everyone else, not just me. I mean, I would be pretty happy, but I think the whole world would be really, really happy to discover that I'm like the greatest gouache painter of all time. I'm sure you guys are all stoked out there to, you know, see me fulfill my true potential. 1v1 with wife, though. See who's the real gouache genius? Oh my. I was just waiting to see who was going to dismantle me first, and I think next to you, I think you got it. Yeah, if I were to try to do that stuff next to Anya, it's just like she's like a perfect fit for being able to do amazing gouache work. And so I'm going to be over there, you know, walking with my swagger, you know, with all of my like social media followers and like people following along on Twitch, and just having her like, you know, not having a real professional career, just completely like shame me by doing a way better job. Oh, it should be like, oh yeah, you know, I made a couple of paintings in gouache once, and her paintings are going to be gorgeous. I'm just going to be struggling. And I'll be like obviously struggling, and I'll be trying to put a good face on it the whole time. That's going to be sick. That's going to be really fun to watch. Where all the images next to the references on Discord, is it today in today is the day? That's right. There's like always one figurative one and then one that's like environmental. Because I don't want to tell people like you have to study like the figure. You can study whatever you want. Like I was doing a mix of both, and then after I like started laying out both environmental and figurative stuff, I was like, oh, I think I'm just going to focus on the figurative stuff because that's what I'm getting the most out of, and it's where my interest is. So I'll just focus on that for the time being. All right. Pretty happy with how this is coming together. It's coming together pretty fast. I'm going to get this face painted in a little bit because right now I've just got this like alien face. I have some question about whether or not it's like it's laid out pretty loosely like where it needs to be. I'm going to switch to the round brush, get a little bit more precise about this. And yeah, I've been developing some decent habits over the course of doing these studies. Like I used to try to draw the face in as the first thing, and now I'm just so much more focused on the underlying structure. Like I'm looking at like all the shading across the whole head here. Like, oh, there's where all the light is across that whole bit. And like aside from like inside the socket of the eye, and I'm looking at that and like trying to address those larger shapes first, and then I'm going to like slice them up and turn them into like bigger pieces later. And then that gives me a context for where I need to actually cut the features in. Because like when you try to just have, if you have an empty silhouette and then you try to draw eyes floating in it, it's harder to like get the exact size and position and orientation on like a feature that's that contrasty and precise, especially because people are so sensitive to like minor differences in faces. And I could never capture I've never been that good at capturing people's expressions and likenesses, but I'm especially bad at it when I'm doing it like completely out of context, just floating features that are floating inside of a empty head. I just can't do it. And so I started focusing more on like the bigger stuff first and trying to place like the larger features before going into like the smaller, more contrasty ones. And it's just gotten a million times easier. So much less frustration. So many fewer brush strokes. And better results on top of it. Faster, better, stronger. All at once. And easier. So much easier. It's insights like that that have been the main takeaways from doing these kinds of studies. That and like a general, I have really increased my ability to like read a reference and be able to like spot proportions easier. Just getting a lot of reflected light from underneath, it seems like. Because there's a lot of light hitting that bottom of that chin. I don't know if it's all reflected off of the dress coming back up. Whenever you have a really bright white spot like this that's getting spotlit, it tends to sort of emanate light up around it. You could see that if you ever look at somebody wearing a white shirt, look at their chin. You can see how much of their chin's being illuminated by the shirt. But then the underside of the neck here, we're getting sort of the same thing. It's almost like she's got a spotlight underneath. It could be from that, or there also could be a reflector down here. There could be somebody down here holding a reflector so that like bounce light is actually being reflected on her from there as well. It's unclear with these fashion shoots exactly how they've constructed the lighting. I think somebody who does a lot of photography would be able to spot all that like off the bat, but for me, I'm making guesses at it. There's this contrasty little thread that goes between the headdress and the cheek here. Helps carve out the silhouette of the face. Let's see. So my Kickstarter has been going pretty well. I got some paid ads running on it, so I don't need to like get everybody in by spamming them on social media, which is great. It's been producing about, I haven't gotten the feedback from the numbers on the ads, but the whole campaign has been getting about $2,500 worth of pledges every day, which is beyond what my expectation was for this campaign when I laid it out. And it puts it on track to basically be, like, that's the same rate that I was getting off of my previously largest campaign ever. So if it keeps that up, I had a larger initial couple of days than the previous, than the Book of Watchers campaign. And then now I've got this like pretty steady like day to day going on it. So I've just been able to let that kind of boil in the background. I actually, by popular request, I enabled some tiers that had some autographs. Like the autograph tiers had already like sold out by the time most people saw the announcement, because I put it up in the morning and then I'm on the East Coast. So anybody who was West Coast, it was sold out before they woke up. But this morning, I low-key added some autographed copies to the $99 tier. And I haven't announced it yet. It's just been quietly on the campaign. So if you're somebody who is thinking about that, consider this like advance notice. I haven't checked. I'm pretty sure that people hadn't really noticed that that's been happening yet. I didn't post an update. I was going to like promote it on social media, and then I decided to play video games instead this morning. After I got finished lifting all the boxes and like moving all the equipment that I was needing to work on, I tucked in for a few minutes of replaying Blasphemous. Instead of like, doing my job. It's the side benefit of being self-employed, is that you can slack off at work and your boss can't get mad at you. What games am I playing? I've been playing, well, I played through Blasphemous 2, and I was like, this game's pretty good. I wish there were more bosses. And then my wife was watching me play it, and she jumped in and was like, oh, what's this crazy Catholic game? It's kind of like Hollow Knight. So she's been jumping into it, and I was watching her play, and I was thinking, oh, if I want more Blasphemous, I can just go ahead and replay the old one, because I never played the DLCs. So I'm in there like replaying it to, it's a Metroidvania I haven't played in a while, so I don't remember where anything is. And then also there's these DLCs. They added like 3 DLCs to it that I never played. So I'm able to pop back in there and get some new content for free, which is always good. So I've been enjoying that. Playing Blasphemous 1 made me think that maybe I was being a little too harsh on Blasphemous 2. I think it's actually maybe an even better game than I was giving it credit. I guess I just have like kind of a skewed scale when it comes to like Metroidvanias, because I've played and replayed Hollow Knight a lot, and that game is tough to beat. As in, it is tough to do better than Hollow Knight at making a video game. It's I think one of the best games ever made. And yeah, I measure a lot of these other Metroidvanias against it, and it doesn't leave a lot of room for the other ones to excel, unfortunately. Still, I'm very excited for Silksong. I'm sure all of you out there are just like waiting bated breath. Blasphemous, good disaster. I don't think it's a disaster. I think Blasphemous 1, especially after all the patches and everything, is a good game. I think that like if you want to figure out what to criticize about it, Blasphemous 2 ends up fixing a lot of the core issues, and it just feels like it's a more mature developer who's like learned from their past experiences, which is just great to see. Yeah, so I really wonder what the hell Silksong is going to be, considering that, like, you know, a lot of developers, like, after they, you know, they release these big games that, you know, get a lot of attention, there's a lot of pressure for them to do good, to do even better. And then, you know, like, they take that pressure really seriously. They put a lot of pressure on themselves to make the best game possible, to learn all the lessons from the game they spent years developing. Getting to, like, kind of go back to the drawing board and do the same thing again, informed by their past experiences. I mean, I've had that before. And do we know, like, a soft remake where you go back and, like, get to apply all the things you've learned from a previous project, but, like, repeat yourself really heavily? You can create really incredible work by doing that. And so I don't know what Silksong is going to... I don't know if Silksong is going to be good or bad or whatever, but I think everybody's instinct is that it's going to be great. And I agree. I think it's lined up to be one of the best games ever made. So I'm really excited to play it, but I don't think there's a universe where Silksong doesn't come out. So I feel a little impatient for it, but, like, I'm more impatient for other stuff. I'm more impatient for, like, you know, my, like, diet and workout routine to reshape my body is another thing that's going to take a long time. I'm excited about, like, I'm impatient for, you know, growing as an artist and, like, getting better at, like, at painting by doing all these studies. Like, video games are kind of a temporary distraction. There are things in my life that I have cooking that could change the way I work day to day, the way I think, the nature of, like, my finances, like, big changes. None of them are video game related. None of them involve me fighting, doing cool boss fights. Like, I have shit in my life that I plan on, like, really being a big, meaningful change to the quality of my life and my future and the lives of my family and my friends and, like, you know, big, important stuff. The video game thing is just, like, nice to unwind with, you know? People, I think, put a little bit too much priority on this feeling that, like, if only this incredibly beautiful game would come out, like, I would be, my problems would be solved. And games are great. I love games. I want to make a game someday. That's, like, that would be transformative for me, is actually getting to go and make my own one of these Metroidvanias. I've been thinking a lot about it. I, like, kind of, like, spoke the words, and now I can't get it out of my head. That if I've thought a lot about what kind of game I would make if I was going to make a game, and I've got some, like, ideas I think are innovative and interesting that I would love to try. But honestly, I just love Metroidvanias, and, like, I would love to make one. And you know, over time, I've been meeting more and more people that could potentially I would want to work with on something like that. That makes me think, like, hey, one of these days maybe I should open up my my schedule a little bit and, like, see if I can get something like that going. But not in the next couple of years, certainly. The next couple of years I kind of already have planned out. But then after that, I could see myself starting a game company. I've started other companies before. Trent Conwiga is making a cool self-published platformer game called Twilight Monk. Can't wait to check it out. Yeah, there's a few out there where it's like content creators, artists or streamers or whatever are, like, making their own games, and, like, even, like, Donkey doing his own publishing platform. It feels like a natural evolution of kind of where the content creator space can head. And so I personally think that that's, like, you know, there have been some disasters in the past, but I feel like those have helped pave the way to a version of the future where, like, content creators are, like, primed to, like, build a company that could like make something like this effectively, and that I would love to ride that wave too. I don't know this Trent figure. He used to work for Blizzard, eventually quit to do his own thing. Very much in alignment with 1FW Huckleberry. I'm gonna write his name down. I'll look him up. Get him in my obsidian here. Yeah, part of the reason I'm not doing conventions anymore is because I want to make more room in my life to take on slightly more ambitious things. Like, if I got everything else on autopilot and I was like, okay, well, I guess I could make another book or something, but I really deep down wish I was like developing games. Like, instead of going and finding a job making games, I would probably just go like, I'm just going to go and start a game studio. And, you know, fund the whole thing with fan support, maybe find some investors, and just, like, play with that. And, like, probably not put my own money into it because I've been pretty successful over the years, but not, you know, fun to, like, not like big streamers are where they have, like, millions of dollars lying around. I do not have millions of dollars lying around. I have dozens of dollars lying around to be able to invest in stuff, mostly groceries. I've been investing recently in getting some minis sculpted. That's been really cool. Once the first couple are done, I'm going to start teasing them a little bit, and then, you know, because the plan is to release 10 of them by as like a Kickstarter next spring, 2024. Millions of groceries. Yeah, I don't think I can't even afford millions of groceries. I'm doing all right. But millions? Groceries? No way. Groceries are baller. Groceries are expensive. I don't have a brush that would make good chain stuff. Closest thing I have, I think, is this thing. Because it makes kind of like a noisy... I get it at the right size and dab it a little bit. I think I get like a suggestion of chain here. I don't want to go too detailed on this because I want to give it a little bit of a color wash before I got into going super detailed. And buy spaghetti, all the spaghetti. I do. We had spaghetti last night. I like a good spaghetti. Yeah, everything got expensive, and so we cut back. I stopped renting an office space. We started doing our own bookkeeping. We stopped eating out so much, and we started like buying more groceries and cooking more and stuff. But like at the exact same moment that we cut back on everything gets like equally as expensive. Like it is double the cost of electricity here in Florida for no reason. So it's like we're basically in the same exact financial situation we were a year ago before we started cutting back. And I'm thinking, man, it sure is good this Kickstarter's popping off. It's nice to have a little bit of fallback, you know, self-funded fallback instead of relying on an employer. Being able to have supportive fans makes all the difference. All right. I got to stop getting detailed with these flowers and stuff and start getting into the... I'm going to do a little bit of color wash here. Now that face is pretty jank. I'm gonna maybe smooth it out a little bit. Not like render it, but I mean like generalize it a little bit. Just so that it's I'm not like getting too lost in the details, but it's like generally the right shape all over. I find that like by mushing it up and making it more general, it's actually closer to what the impression I ultimately want. Being more impressionistic about stuff sometimes ends up adding a lot to the believability of it. Maybe just bring all the shadows in here. Yeah. Bringing the contrast down and just like washing everything out and generalizing it ends up feeling a lot better really quick. It's like, that seems like an easy save. And then I'll figure out the specifics of those features later instead of like worrying about it now. Just to mush it all up and generalize it. Maybe give it a little bit of highlight on the cheek back here. No, that's too much. I'm going crazy. How about a kind of a madman do I think I am here? Putting a highlight on a cheek. Needs more shadow on the side of the face. Let the cheek come out on its own. There we go. Just side of the mouth too. Okay. I'm looking over at the navigator and I'm just like, yikes. Is it better than it was? I think it is. I think it's better than it was. Anyways, the point is not to make this stuff all too tight. Hey, Peacock, welcome back. Spaghetti is great. Tris Crisis. Okay, gradient map. This is one of those images that I think if you did it exactly right, you could actually do the whole image with a gradient map. If you got the values just perfect, you could it basically has no local color at all. You could get because the skin tone, the value of the skin tone is like pretty similar to the hue of like the shadow colors that are the same values. So like you could get it at least 80-90% of the way there with like really controlled values and one gradient map. Is that it? I think that's it. I think that's all I need there. And then I'm going to do a little bit of color glaze over the top of it with hard light. You're in Canada watching Pete's study. You know, I have another friend who is just arrived in Canada from being overseas as well. I feel like there's some great convergence happening in Canada right now. Are those actually feathers? My guess is that they're fake feathers. I think they might be like plastic feathers. I don't know what kind of animal has feathers this long and how you would get so dang many of them. Just enjoying being in the same time zone? Are you sure that you're enjoying that? Because, I mean, it sounded like you're a little bit of a night owl, so wouldn't you enjoy being... If you stay up super late now, everyone's going to be asleep. Yeah, there's no way these feathers are real. Don't lie to me. Don't tell me these feathers are real. How dare you? I'm going to take some of the gold here, the gradient map off the skin tone to try to... I want to have it have a slightly different color temperature, and I don't want to go too orangey red with it. Like I want to keep them both like pretty muted, but I want it to have a slightly different temperature for the skin tone. I think that's it. And it's a little bit more saturated than the reference, but I think it's all fine. I'm second guessing myself here. Because if I do, maybe I need two. Maybe I need two. Because like one of the things I don't like, the dress is very cool in its tone. And so doing something that brings out like cools on the lighter end of the spectrum might actually give me more of the result that I'm looking for. Is this your art that is acting as yourself? Looks so cool. How did you make it work? Can you clarify that question? I'm happy to answer it. Is this your art that is acting as yourself? I mean, I am acting as myself. Oh, at the VTuber. Yes, this is my art that is acting as myself. Yes. Ooh, look, I think that actually adding that on top of the golden gradient map actually did exactly what I was looking for, and I think it's helping with my values too. Yes, there it is. That's much better. Okay, now all I need to do is all the details. So this is the part I was not looking forward to. Pete should add the VTuber tag to his stream. Oh, yeah. Dustin, can you do that? I'm not exactly sure where that stuff gets added in. I also want to make a VTuber that's a little bit more like yours, Peacock, because before I even saw yours, I was thinking, oh, maybe I should do a cute chibi version that is. I thought it was cool to have like a VTuber avatar that was maybe a little bit on the weirder side. Like typically they're not like so gothic, but like my art already doesn't match my voice, and I was thinking, oh, you know, maybe I should have something that looks a little less serious to better match the tone of my voice. And so I was thinking about going and doing a chibi version. And I saw yours and I was like, okay. I see a successful Twitch streamer is also thinking about having a, you know, is also using a sort of less serious little chibi avatar of themselves. Well, I wouldn't have a chibi me. I would have a chibi Angel of Death is what I would probably put up there. I could do a chibi me. I'm not a very serious look. My voice and face match each other just fine. It's my art and my voice and my like my personality and like everything about me physically is like it all matches just fine. And then there's the art, which does not mesh. People yeah, they typically are a little surprised meeting me going like, oh, you're the guy? And I don't know what they're expecting. And I thought at times that maybe I should create a kind of in-person character that is a little bit more like in line with the people's expectations for me. Yes. Oh, you did come to the stream because of the avatar. Okay. Maybe the avatar is great. I'll try. It's like I'm not going to throw this one out. I do want to upgrade this one. I wanted to add some physics. I wanted to add some like a little bit larger range of motion, things like that. And but I also want to have the chibi option. I would love to have the chibi option too. So I have a couple of different places where I can attack this right now. One of them is I was thinking about adding some like glazing in some richer tones over the top of these shadow areas, because I see just like there's a lot of saturation that's coming into these shadows that is really warming them up and making it feel like there's a light kind of glowing within this mass of feathers a little bit. And so bringing in some of that and finding where to add like some additional warmth, and then finding some details to pull out of the feathers. That could be a real big upgrade for this thing. It's definitely worth doing. Cutting it a little bit more precisely on some of the silhouette probably helps. I definitely need some upgrade to the some of the figure here. Like this arm is really jank. But and then there's also, you know, details around the face. Probably they're going to do a lot of heavy lifting, so I should get those in order too. All of this is likely to happen on this layer. So I'm mostly just like picking around here, procrastinating on figuring out where should I really be investing my time to make this a better piece. Oh yeah, I could get an iPhone. I tried doing the iPhone for tracking, and I couldn't get VTuber Studio to detect my phone, even after I was like going through a bunch of troubleshooting tips. And so then I defaulted back to like the bad tracking with the built-in like webcam. It's and the part of the blinking is from it detecting, like having a hard time detecting where my eyes are because I wear glasses, I think. VTuber avatar in a Hawaiian shirt. I mean, I was really thinking about dressing up Azrael in cute ways for like holidays and stuff. I thought that'd be fun. Give him a Santa hat or whatever around Christmas time. Hey LGN, how's it going? I don't know. I had this big burst of momentum while I was setting everything up, and then I have been in kind of a low momentum state recently, and so these kind of little side projects have all just become speculative, like future events. Something's going to happen. Definitely going to keep working on this. All right. Picking away at the edges. But what do I want to accomplish? Where am I going with this thing? Picking. Bits and pieces. It's all fine. It's all fine. I am going to work on the face, because if I get the face really good, everything else can be forgiven. I was seeing Yiming Lee is like posting up pieces where it's got like a really soft focus, low contrast face with like a, you know, really higher crunchy detail and like the pattern work on like the cloth and stuff. And I was like, damn, that's a cool look. Keep thinking I should try that. I don't know if this is the piece for that though. She's got this more tanned skin that is darker than the color of all the flowers and feathers and stuff. And I wonder if maybe I should really be bringing that out. Or I wonder if it's actually makeup. I wonder if she's painted slightly dark, because she's not particularly shiny. She's got, her skin's coming through very matte and a little bit darker than everything else. So I think I'm just going to put a light glaze over the top to push things down a little bit. Because I feel like I'm running out of value range on the high end, and so I want to like maybe push it back a little before I start trying to add in any highlights. Skip drawing and painting today, not really feeling it, played some video games. Hell yeah. Take a day off. Commit to the day off, commit to recharging, and then hold yourself to committing to jumping back in at full speed once you're rested. Requires both. You have to, doing both sides of that is really tough. Where you're like, you say like, I just really need a day off. I'm really going to take a break or whatever. I just need to recharge. But then actually getting back to it is like, it's difficult to do that because there's a lot of guilt associated with that. But then actually getting back to it can be really tough to get that momentum rolling again. If you can do both, you're in the driver's seat and everything's good. But getting both done is really hard. Because people either are really good at overworking or they're really bad at like getting started going. But like creating real balance between the two, that's the like Giga Chad skill that like nobody ever quite finds the balance for, I feel like. Huge fan of day offs. Hell yeah. Yeah, like there was a Tuesday like last week where I just actually had to even cancel a meeting. I just told them I wasn't feeling well. I just had a full like meltdown. I was like, I can't even imagine myself sitting down in the chair to work today. And I spent the whole day in front of the TV. And instead of like feeling guilty about it and dragging myself along to appointments and stuff, I just decided to fully commit to the day off. And then it turned out it was a great idea. I was able to recharge. I was able to get back on track, and I got back to it like the next day. And I picked up the pieces. I rescheduled my meetings. I took care of all my obligations. None of the plates ended up hitting the floor. Nothing ended up getting massively delayed. It turned out it was all fine. I really needed to commit to like that day off, and it worked out. He's only taken 8 days off in the last 10 years. Oh my God. Yeah, I could see him doing that. Nathan is a incredibly hard worker, and he's like always learning new stuff, building new stuff, and like that burnout though can get so real. And you hear this from like content creators, like YouTubers and stuff. They will finally admit they need a break, and they look back and they realize that they have years worth of trauma built up from like overwork that is like shortening their like full on shortening their career, you know, making it so that they'll never ever be able to live up to the same expectations again, because they're like they've so fully committed to like overworking for a period of time that they have a business that they can no longer sustain, and like a schedule that is like impossible, and then they are realizing that like they need to completely reformat how they operate as a professional in order to continue, because continuing along the same lines is just like a full impossibility. And I never want to find myself there. I've had periods of unsustainable progress, and the goal of those periods is to lay out enough runway so that like I can have serious time off and recharge, and like so I can run at my next project in a committed way. So like last year especially, it was a big year of automation for me. I was working really hard on a lot of admin tasks to try to make sure that like my everything, I was getting all of my product SKUs into not only my warehouse in the US, but getting my like distribution network across the globe set up, and like setting up processes and partners and stuff to make sure I could run my business without having to like be super involved in the day-to-day as far as like shipping, marketing, like customer service, things like that. Getting all that set up in a way where I didn't need to be the person handling every single interaction and every single order. And with that laid out, it gave me the time to be able to commit to more art projects and commit to healthier work-life balance. And I felt like I recovered from some pretty tough years by focusing on automation and recovery. And I got a real good sense over that time of like when I was starting to burn out, like when what my energy level was like kind of like midweek. Yeah, artists are really, really good at like burning themselves out really hard. And it's like, it's not just like visual artists. It's like every creative field is really, really good at like burning themselves out to an absurd degree. But I am committed to being able to set things up in a way where I can create real automation for things like shipping, marketing, social media, shit like that. The thing that's not like the real creative part of things. And then I want to use that time to get involved in projects that I care about. Whether that means an illustration series or like, booting up a new project like the minis where I'm like spending all my time working as an art director. Or, someday starting a game studio. That if I want to like have this going while I'm working on something like a game studio, I really, really need to have it automated. I can't be like committing to shipping orders while also trying to like build a new company. What's the stuff between the feathers and their head? Oh, those are flowers, I think. Well, there's some flowers here, and then there's some chains. And then this looks like more flowery stuff back here. It's hard to tell. A lot of these references are so low resolution that when you get in close, like, it starts to kind of fall apart. Oh, stream beats. I was thinking it was like awfully quiet in here today, and I couldn't figure out what exactly I was doing wrong. You do a super move and deplete your HP gauge? I mean, kind of. There's a lot of times where I see somebody feel insecure about their they feel really insecure about how good they're doing. All right, there we go. And they're like, okay, well, I need to be better at art, so I'm gonna do 12 hours of study every single day, and I'm gonna keep doing that until I've like gotten hired by Blizzard or whatever. And then they just like they commit to that, and they do it for like months, and then they like start developing like serious like carpal tunnel issues, or like they burn themselves out really hard, and then it's all fucking problems. You know, it becomes really dangerous really fast. But like, it's like, you know, we've talked a bit about fitness on this channel a bit, where it's like, you know, people don't just like go into the gym and like on their first day start like picking the heaviest weights they can find, and that's not like the path to like getting stronger. It's about progressive overload. You have to like work your way up to stuff. And you have to consider your health, you have to consider your recovery. And it takes a while. You know, people who get fit, they do it because they are consistent about going to the gym, not just being hardcore about it. Oh, Peacock, I had something I want to say to you. Yeah, I've got like, I feel like I'm definitely somebody with the opposite viewpoint of what's the standard out there when it comes to a lot of this stuff. You were saying the other day that one of the things that was like enabling for you in learning art was that this idea that you realized that you weren't special at all, and that like anybody could basically do this if they just committed themselves to it. And I was thinking about this idea, maybe I'm misquoting, so feel free to correct me on this. But like I was thinking about this idea of like not being special, and like how that was really motivating for you. And I was thinking like, I wonder if there's something there, like as a learning lesson for other people, because it does feel like a smart thing to like notice that, you know, you're not gifted in some tremendous way artistically. And so you like, literally anybody could do it if they commit the time. But I do want to push back a little bit, because I was thinking like, no, there has to be something special about you, because you're having tremendous results. And I don't think that you are special in the sense that you have like a gift for spotting art, like that you're like have this insight into art generally. I mean, I don't know you very well, but I don't think anybody really has like this sort of genius level thing where they, you know, have an easy time just being granted insight into the nature of art. I think that like the superpower is just the fact that you really love it and that you really enjoy the time that you spend working on it. Like I can tell that like you really like studying art, that you really, even when you put yourself up against these really difficult challenges of drawing a bunch of boxes or heads or whatever, that like you really look forward to working on art and you really enjoy it. And like that, for a long time, I've always felt that that is like the only superpower that anybody ever gets. And like the people who get really, really good at art, the people who are kind of special at art, are really the only quality they have that other people don't have is like a higher level of love for the process. And like right away, like you've already been talking about it from the perspective of like, oh yeah, I love the process, and like the JPEG at the end is really just a byproduct. And I'm like, yeah, that's exactly right. But like, if somebody were to feel differently about it, if they were to say like, I really just want the money and the attention that comes with art, they would never get good at it because they don't actually care about the time that they spend doing it. And like everybody I know who's like a professional artist, they love making art, like genuinely love it. And like they just get so excited for the time they can spend working with their crayons. And like that's the game. Like that is the whole thing. And so I would say that you do have a special quality, and that is like your unabashed love for working on art and your enjoyment for the time that you spend doing it. Because not everybody enjoys it that much. I enjoy it a lot. And like I've enjoyed the heck out of doing all these studies. I've enjoyed getting the opportunity to work on art as a career. I've enjoyed building my brand a lot. And like, I think that other people who aren't doing it, they just don't enjoy it as much. And like, that's fine. I think one of the concerns people have is that there's like a separation of people who have talent and people who don't. And I would agree that there's not really a separation there. But I would say that like people who have a genuine love of the time they spend making art are way ahead of the people who like just kind of like it, or people who like tolerate it but they want to get more likes and subscribes on social media. Like the authentic love for process is like the pure natural enjoyment of like sitting down to draw. That can't be faked, and like it's not something you get to choose to like. You don't get to choose anything about what you like. And so the people who like just like it more are going to go further. And like I think that's something that like I think it's fair to say, because it doesn't turn into a judgment of like there being like gifted people and then ordinary people who are like, you know, unable to participate in art. There's this big narrative going on right now where some of the pro AI people are out there saying like, well, actually all the artists are being elitist because they have all these special gifts. And what if people, ordinary people who aren't gifted in art, want to like participate in it? And it's like, it's partially true in the sense that some people are disabled and have tremendous struggles in participating in art. Like I've definitely met people who are like that, who are have disabilities that make it extra hard for them to like make art, and they've been using AI as a tool to like help re-enable that creativity. But the majority of people who don't make art just don't really like making art that much. And it's not like an elitist thing that like some people are gifted with incredible talents to create and everybody else just like is cursed to never be able to do it. It's like, yeah, artists just love it more. Like, and that's like it's a positive thing. And it's also an inclusive thing, because anybody who loves doing it is ultimately going to see really incredible progress as well, if they just nurture that love. Spoken word album featuring cuts from these sessions. Get an Alan Watts vibe from it? Maybe. Probably not. The people who want prestige can go and prompt the machine for it and try, I guess. I wonder if there's a way to explain the love of process. It's easy to say, learn to enjoy the process, but it's hard to execute if you're not already there. Yeah. Yeah, creativity privilege. It's like, I saw those posts going around, and it's like, I think that a lot of the anti-AI sentiment is sort of misguided, but I also think that this like, there's a very small number of people that have this whole like creativity privilege idea, and that's like, it's ridiculous. Some of the most successful artists I know like don't have an internal mind's eye. You know, they don't have the ability to like imagine what they're drawing before they draw it. It's like, yeah, like there's really no, like there's some physical setbacks that can make it very difficult for somebody to like commit to learning art. But like, if it's not like a mental thing, it's not like, you know, some people are just blessed with creativity and everybody else is cursed. It's never been the thing. If anything, it's like we've always seen obsession as being a bit of a curse. You know, culturally, obsession has always been a bit of a curse. But I think it actually cuts both ways. I think the obsession that artists feel, this desire to continue to get the same stimulus over and over again, adds a lot of quality to our lives. But it can also be quite, vexing as well. So the face is in all right shape, which means that I can't fuck this up too bad from here on out. And I've kind of got myself queued up for another 30 minutes. So I've got 30 minutes to make the other things not so fucked up looking. Yeah, it's like I've seen like a lot of like anytime there's a good opportunity for people to rag on a pro AI person, like people will take it. And so like one like mildly bad take will travel across all of Twitter. Oh my god, it's a big paragraph. If I might finish that thought I had on the not being social though. It was on how I learned to be comfortable with my level of art, even if I wasn't at the level I wanted to be yet, because I'm not special. It doesn't exclude me from having to do all the work to get to where I want to be. If I look at the artists I admire, they've all done so much more than I have. To expect that I can be as good as them without working is just arrogance on my part. Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's like you don't get anywhere with art without putting in the time. There's just no path to that. And like, there's no one who's excluded from it. It's just that like most people don't actually want to spend a huge chunk of their life drawing. They just don't want it. And like if you do want that, that makes you unique. And it doesn't mean that you're like better at art by default, but it is like a prerequisite for getting good at it. It is a unique trait to like just love it more than the people around you, authentically, and it can't be taught. It's the closest stand-in we have for talent. Yeah, and it's also really bad that you send a paragraph also because I am getting to demonstrate that I'm really bad at reading on the fly. I'm bad at, I have some minor dyslexia or something. I'm really bad at reading out loud. So reading the chat when it's a paragraph is tough for me. Keep it tiny. My brain's weak. There are people with no hands painting with their feet, blind sculptors. It definitely takes passion to be able to push through and create. Yeah. No, there's definitely people who have taken extraordinary steps to be able to make art even through disability. But yeah, there's plenty of cases where I think that people using simpler methods of making art because of health reasons or social reasons is totally valid. I have a hard time hating on anyone who is making art regardless of whatever medium they're using. But I am not particularly sympathetic to them whining about artists having creativity privilege. It's a ridiculous idea. Look at these elitist artists taking up all the pencils and paper. How dare they? Going to the art store and buying hundreds of dollars of art supplies all at once. They must be immensely wealthy to spend that much on paints and canvases. Yeah, I could read more paragraphs. You're going to help me get practice at reading paragraphs on live on stream. It's very kind of you to give me such a strong lesson. Oh, I'm getting like a call on Discord. What is going on? Dustin, hello.
Yo.
Hey.
I was trying to. Could you turn down the music a little bit?
Oh, sure.
Great, thank you.
Could you mind to just talk to me on the stage?
No, the stage ended.
The stage ended? How? Why?
Yeah. I don't know. I think when your internet was hanging for a little bit, and then next thing I noticed, the stage was gone.
Jesus Christ. Okay, I'm back on the stage. Oh my god, what is going on? Okay, I got the stage running again. What the fuck was that all about? Yeah, famously wealthy artists spending all of their excessive money on pricey tubes of paint. Someone should take them down a peg. Yeah, I don't know. I think art is an inherently inclusive thing. Like, anybody who wants to do it should just do it. It's great. And if you don't want to do it, if you don't really like doing it that much, that's fine too. That's the default. The default is that people don't like spending all of their time making art. A thing which I accept, but I certainly don't relate to. You know, when I talk to people about this stuff, I'm like, hey, you should do daily studies. They're great. They're awesome. And some people, they like play around with it for a bit. They may keep it up for a week. And then like I watch them like fall off, and I'm still out here doing them all the time. And a big part of that is that I just think I get more of a charge out of it than the average person. And like, that's it. That's why I'm going to like study more than the average person, is not because I have like grit, commitment, you know, big Sigma grind set energy. I'm just like, I like it a lot. I like it more than average, like by a lot. I really like doing art. And I'm going to try to share that love as much as possible to get other people stoked on it. But like, there's only so much I can do to kind of artificially, from outside, like induce stoke. Yeah, you love doing it, so you do it. It's not that complicated. And like, you don't even need to like commit to it as a career to like love doing it and do it all the time either. Like, that's the other thing, is that people get wrapped up in this identity thing, where they're like, if I'm going to be a real artist does this or that. No, real artists, like, they love doing it and they keep committing time to it regardless of whether or not it's a good idea. I have this quote that I keep coming back to that I made up, where I say that nobody gets into art because they thought it was a good idea. And it holds true. It's easy to agree with. KK Mousy, I love your art so much. I've recently started doing studies and I'm loving it so far. That's fantastic. That's what I want. I want people to like enjoy the time that they spend making studies. Studies are fun to make. You know, like, here's the thing, is like, a lot of people have asked me like, oh, like, I felt like I've grown as a result of the studies, but people have asked me like, well, in what way? Like, what are you getting out of it? From now on, I'm not even going to answer that question. It's been too hard to answer, and like, it's totally besides the point. The point of the studies is that I've had fun doing them. I felt like I've grown in a way that like, I've gotten better at certain things, but the only reason I cared to be good at them in the first place was for fun. And so if the question is like, what did you get out of doing 77 studies? It was like, I got 77 good times. And maybe that's enough. It's more than enough. If I can make a career out of it, great. But if I have to like go get a job in marketing or whatever and do art on the side, fine. I'll do art on the side. If my art career collapses and I could never make money out of this ever again, fine. I'll just I'll just have it as a hobby, and I'll just try to get through whatever bullshit I need to in the day to make sure that I can get back to my art at some point. One of my big regrets about the last several years, about the past 10 years of me talking about art, was that I was always trying to help artists in the form of like helping them build a business, and like talking about art as a business. It's something that there's definitely not enough conversation about, but I think it took the focus away from the really, really important part, which is that art is best done for no reason whatsoever. Building into a business is an interesting challenge, and I like doing it, but it's not the point. I also think that artists should always be advocating for their business interests. I think that in light of the recent WGA win, that like more illustrators and concept artists, people who work in games, and for large tabletop publishing companies like Paizo and Wizards of the Coast, should unionize and try to achieve similar results as to what the WGA was able to pull off. But if somebody's going to ask, should I do 100 studies in 100 days? I'd be like, yeah, because it's fun. And if you do them with other people, it's even more fun. How to have fun doing studies. They're more frustrating than doing my usual stuff from imagination. I don't know, like I never did studies forever, and then I started doing studies recently, and I think it was like I was so bad at them at first that it was the thing that was fun for me was like when I'm doing stuff from imagination, I have a goal that I'm kind of committing towards. Like I am trying to like add stuff to a card deck, or I'm trying to like write a book, or I'm trying to like build some sort of product or something. And the thing I thought was fun about the studies was I sat down to do them in one session, finished them right away, and like good or bad, they were always done in a couple hours, and there was no pressure to have them exist in a financial context. You know, they were really just for the sake of the process of making them, and not about like how they were going to be productized, which is a huge relief for me, because I've had like the goal of productizing my work is like high on the list for me and has been for a really long time. Whoa, look at that. Skin just jumped off her bones because I misclicked. And so being able to like make art for a purpose that has no financial benefit is like, to me, very relaxing and fun in comparison to my usual day-to-day, where there is like a real need for me to like consider my audience and consider the purpose of work and the context. While this, all I need to do is worry about like the process and the aesthetic. It's like a fun playground where I can try out ideas I've had for how to work, and visually, how do I want to like make stuff look a certain way. And, you know, that's just, you know, it's playtime. Yeah, studies are fun because they don't have to be good. There's a lot of expectations when you're working on something, and you like go, this should be good. I should be a good artist. I should be good at this. People are going to look at this. What are they going to think about it? People keep asking me, like, where are you putting these? I'm like, I don't know, here and there. Who cares? I might put them all somewhere at some point. But the point of them is not to put them somewhere and, like, sell them or, like, convince people of something about me as an artist. The point is for me to spend time doing them. And doing them in public helps me encourage other people to do the same. And like gives me an opportunity to do a little art socializing. I've gotten to meet some artists through being here on Twitch and like studying and stuff. It's been really fun to watch the growth too. I've gotten a lot better at these over the course of doing them for just even a few months. Getting better at skills is fun. Something you said way back was, don't sit down with the intention to make something good. Make something dumb. Exactly. My son and I say this quite often when we sit down to draw, and it really helps take the pressure off. Yeah, this looks great. Presses like, end of interaction. Yeah, it's not exactly... Yeah, it's not like... That's the thing, is like a lot of social media is really, really impersonal. But yeah, this idea of like making something dumb is one of the thought technologies I'm most proud of. Like, because it frees you from that trap of like feeling like you need to be making something iconic and great and like things that someone is going to care about, something that people are going to fall in love with. Like, what we really need to do is we just need to create authentically, and like whatever comes to us first is often the most authentic, but we, like, our default reaction is always just presume it's dumb. So I say if you can just aim for that spot on purpose, you're in pretty good shape. So this is why I think making stuff dumb on purpose, whatever the most obvious, dumbest, stupidest solution you can come up with, is ultimately going to be the thing that is like closest to your instinct. And it's probably not as bad as you think it is. So I think there's real value in it. All right, so when I'm looking at this big spiky mass, I've got a few thoughts. One of them is that, let me just make an adjustment really quick. One of them is that, like, if I found that when I was working on the edges and I was like picking into the interior in a careful way, I was able to like give the sense of these points being like more structured just by like finding the silhouette of them. So like part of this is like I should pick around the edges and find the silhouette in some spots, and that will give an impression that's going to like kind of extend over the whole thing. While other places I think I should probably keep it a little looser, because if I go that tight with it all around, it's going to look pretty noisy and messy. So I think what I want to do is find areas where I can kind of like smush it out, and other places where I'm going to carve in really tight. And by picking, by doing those two things simultaneously, I think I can create a stronger impression of the texture the way that it looks like in the reference without literally recreating everything. And it's going to look more artistic. It's freestyle points. So there's that. And then there's this sort of like, there's the kind of base of the feathers where there's like individual feathers that can be picked out, and like the structure of some larger ones that are more noticeable, that I think doing those on the interior, and then like these like darker edges, these darker gaps on the interior to give like the illusion of structure is also going to be pretty valuable. So there's like some work done on the edges and the work done on the interior that I think can like efficiently get me to where I'm going in the next, I guess I've only got 15 minutes on the timer. So I'm sitting here explaining it instead of just doing it. Yeah, I have been, one of the reasons I've been liking Discord so much is because Discord feels like an opportunity to genuinely meet other artists. Though the issue with it is that in some cases it feels like the people who I'd really want to meet are kind of like maybe not hanging out in public Discord spaces all the time because they're a little bit better known and they don't really want to like have fan interactions. They want to just have interactions with peers, and that can sometimes be difficult in like public spaces. Oh, you found me through Midjourney. Nice. Yeah, that can be challenging, is like, because every once in a while I'll see somebody whose work I know and I like, and I see them like in a chat or whatever. I get to talk with them for like a couple of minutes, and then I never see them around again. And I know that if they were to hang around all the time, there would be a lot of fans that would kind of like congregate in those spaces. So it can be difficult sometimes to like always be meeting the people that you want. But like, I mean, on Twitch it's a little easier because like, you know, you can be hanging out in someone's chat or whatever, and it's not such a busy place. You can get to meet someone. I don't know. Like the internet's getting to be a better place to actually like, there was a time where it was easy to like get to meet people on the internet, and then it kind of got harder as we moved away from forums and like Web 2 stuff and onto social media where everybody was just kind of like posting and ghosting. And now like we're kind of building in like cultural spaces where people are hanging out again. You can actually genuinely meet other people that are into the same thing. One of my favorite things about going to conventions for a long time was like getting to meet a lot of people, because like in those spaces, like, I mean, you're face to face with somebody. You show up early before like the doors open or whatever, and you can just hang out and one-on-one chat with like world-class artists that you'd ever even thought you were going to meet. Meet new people who like are world-class that haven't been discovered yet. Like you can meet incredible artists and like make new friendships and like, you know, spend real quality time with people face to face. And like it's so easy in an environment like that. It's great. But like the commitment to going out to events can be so financially and draining and like so time consuming. That it's like I don't think I can continue to do that, because I can do like maybe a couple events a year that like I can go and meet people at, but I don't think I could do it at the same level I was doing, you know, for the years leading up to 2020. Did you stop using Midjourney for a second? You're the face of it. No, I haven't stopped. I mean, I guess I don't really use it that often. It's like I use it sometimes for like making custom reference. I don't really like letting a bot take over too much. I really like the process of like coming up with ideas for stuff. And I thought there was a period of time where I thought like Midjourney would be really helpful with that part. But I'm finding that the actual thing that I want is kind of exists between the gaps that things like Midjourney, like they don't actually do. Like they're really good at generating an aesthetic, but they're not very good at generating a concept. And the concept is like the important part. And then when it comes to the aesthetic, like I kind of have my own aesthetic. And so it's like structurally AI tends to not be very strong. It's like the finish of it is the thing that it's really strong at. But you can't, but you also like, there's no tools to be able to give it like a concept that you've started or like a thing that you've been working on and then have it assist in generating the aesthetic. There's like a few workflows that can help with that I've played with, but it's like it's sort of inconsistent, difficult to control, and kind of a pain in the ass, and like it's really just not that important for me to be able to do those sort of things. But I still pop on there once a week to like do studies and like talk about art, and like there's a contingent in there that just really loves learning about art, and so they're very happy to just hear me talk about like the same exact stuff I do here. You know, there's a really strong sense of like wanting to learn about making art and being a creative person from an expert inside that community. It's something that like a lot of people who are anti-AI don't really seem to understand or respect, is that like the majority of the AI community really loves art and they wish they could make this stuff. And like I think they're a little confused on the process of how artists do it. And that like some additional art education would go a really long way inside the AI community. And there's like a lot of like there's this general hate towards anybody who uses AI as though like they're stealing from artists. But I really think it's like I really think that there is something more productive that can happen between people who know AI really well and and artists who like make stuff from scratch. I think that there is an interchange there that could happen that is largely being like closed off by this kind of like social barrier that people put up. Most AI artists I've met really like traditionally made art and like aspire to be able to do something like that themselves. So I think it's really fertile ground to be able to like, you know, find people who want to learn art. Is like people who are already have a latent interest in AI are likely to want to like learn how to draw and paint. Aside from like those losers who are talking about artists having creative privilege, I mean, they're just being stupid. The majority of that community is not like that. I can say that from firsthand experience. Pretty happy with how this pointy mass is coming out. Don't start talking about how it's influenced like humans are. Really doesn't work that way. It's yeah, I don't know. It's like the way it works is not the way anti-AI people talk about it. Like I've known plenty of people who have like worked on the guts of this stuff. So I know a little bit about how the AI works and like the talk that you hear when artists talk about how it works, they're like typically pretty incorrect. A lot of the popular talk about it is just flat out wrong. But the same is true from a lot of the pro AI people as well, especially like the most public figures, like the Sam Altmans, speak about AI in a way that is fundamentally wrong as well. And like it's kind of in his interest because it's his business to do that. He's just like an Elon Musk type person who's like pumping up his stuff and like making wild claims like just for his own personal gain and not really like representing how the technology works. So it's like you have this misrepresentation that's really happening pretty wildly across both sides of the conversation, and like both of them are making it harder for people to like gain some level of understanding on what's actually happening. You know, like a judge was looking at that lawsuit, that copyright lawsuit recently, and was like, so which copyrighted piece did the AI recreate? And they're like, oh, no, it didn't recreate any of our work in specific. It just looks kind of like our work. And the judge is like, yeah, that's not how copyright works. That's not how copyright law works. And it's like, that's what a lot of people have been saying for a long time, that like you can't really make this whole thing a copyright issue because, you know, that's not how copyright works. And like, if it were to work like that, where you could copyright a style, like we would be in really, really bad shape. If styles could be copyrighted, you could get sued for drawing wrong. You could like draw something original and then have somebody sue you, have a patent troll basically sue you for drawing it in a style that they claim that they own because they bought the rights to some deceased artist's work. You know, it would be a total nightmare. It would make it nearly impossible to create anything original if there were styles owned. Yeah, I mean, yeah, if you've done the research on it, about how diffusion models work, basically everyone is wrong about it. The whole like, oh, it's just taking inspiration from artists. It's like, well, it doesn't actually take inspiration because it doesn't actually know anything, you know? But also it like the idea that it is like reproducing copyrighted works is also wrong. In a lot of cases, people were posting like images that were image to image outputs where they were like basically running a Photoshop filter over an existing painting. And then people were looking at it and going like, see, it's stealing the art. And it's like, no, that's stealing the art just as much as like a Photoshop filter steals the art. Like it's like a derivative work. It's like, it's not an original copyrightable work. It's true. It doesn't count, but it doesn't like, it's not a existential threat that is like unique to AI. It's just like, that's just somebody committing That's just somebody copying somebody else's work and reposting it. It's not. Replacing someone with a machine that's trained on their work is fundamentally not very cool. I agree with that. My pitch for a long time has been, that I think that that a lot of artists need to form a union so that they can collectively negotiate with their employers. Like, this is what the whole WGA strike was about in part. Part of it was about streaming residuals. And then the other part was about, hey, we don't want you to train AI on us and then be able to and then build a machine that's going to allow you to replace us with a machine, with something that was trained on our work. And the only reason that they've gotten a victory in that is not because they sued their employers, but because they had a union that they were able to stop the production of television and film until studios agreed to that. And currently there is no union for artists in games, especially in tabletop games and in video games. Artists don't have any kind of union that would allow them to be able to enforce that kind of action. And so, I don't think that you can get to that point by suing the companies that make the technology, because I don't think that the companies that are making technology are doing copyright violation. So it's just not a very effective way to accomplish that goal. And so, as somebody who's sort of neutral on the technology of AI, I really don't think that the strategy that people have proposed so far is effective at accomplishing the goal that has been stated. I agree that people shouldn't lose their jobs to an AI that's trained on their work, but that's a labor issue. It's not a copyright issue. And these labor issues, there are many. The WGA strike was not exclusively about AI. As much as it sort of led the headlines on a lot of these conversations, it's the WGA strike came from there being a lot of labor issues that have cropped up in writing, and then the SAG strike, and then the one that's even brewing in games, again, comes from a lot of the labor issues that have cropped up over the last 20 to 40 years. And, they're able to address those directly along with AI because of organized labor. And I think that the fact that that's working for them should be a model for other creative people in other industries to do something similar. I think the issue with AI isn't about labor or even ethics. It's a bit more fundamental than that. I'm just uncomfortable with replacing human ingenuity with the creativity with a machine. Well, I don't think that you can replace human ingenuity and creativity with a machine. I've tried my absolute best to see if I can augment my own ability by using a tame AI, building, trying out. I've had people try to build AI models based off of my work to see if I could use them for my own benefit, and they're useless. And it's not just a problem with the technology now. I've talked to people who are on the cutting edge of this stuff, and it is the part where you cut out the person's creative ingenuity. It's not in the works. It doesn't happen. The AI is it's able to do really interesting things that we've never been able to do before, but it's not able to replace people in that respect. So I'm just not worried about that side of it. I've been somebody who's been an advocate for labor issues in art for a really long time, way before AI. And it continues to get me in trouble with other artists because I'm always advocating that artists collectively negotiate against their employers. And, AI seems like a perfect opportunity for us to jump into that again. It's one more issue on the table that's, I think would really benefit from collective action. But there's plenty of issues that would benefit from collective action. it could be a drastically different landscape 5 years from now. You know, like the point where I'm really concerned about it has to do with like, you talk about copyright. Like, if it's true that you can use copyrighted material to create like an effective, like automated copy of a creative worker, right? Like, let's say I'm working for Wizards of the Coast and they are sick of my shit and they want to fire me and they want to replace me with Pete 9000. And it turns out that these days AI is actually really, really good. And they just want to like cut me out and fire me and never deal with me ever again. Okay. Well, they're able to do that in part. Like, if this was a copyright issue, you'd say like, well, okay, well, they can't do that because they can't steal all your work. But the problem that we're dealing with is that like, they don't need to steal it. Like, a lot of these companies that you work for, they are all working, doing work for hire contracts. They own the copyrights to all the work. And like, a lot of these are owned by larger parent companies. Companies like Microsoft. You know, Microsoft owns a huge amount of game studios. There was a massive buying spree over the last few years, and Microsoft bought up a tremendous amount of IP. If we say like, well, you shouldn't be able to make a copy of someone's work without the copyright, Microsoft goes, oh goody, that sounds awesome. Because Microsoft owns a lot of our copyrights. It owns the copyrights to a tremendous amount of artistic work in, you know, especially in like the game space. Companies like Tencent, companies like Sony, companies like Disney own tremendous amounts of copyrighted material. And the artists who produced all that copyrighted material don't have any ownership over it at all. So you could say, well, we should really make sure that people's copyrights are always respected. Okay. Well, we're not, but the thing is that we don't live in a world of people. We live in a world of corporations. And so if you want to hand over a greater level of copyright control to allow people to like stand against AI, the corporations are just going to be rubbing their hands together and they're going to say, ooh, goody. All these people are just handing us the keys to be able to build bots off of all their work because we already own all their copyrights. I'm one of the only artists out there who has had a professional career for the last 10 years who owns the majority of their copyrights. There's very few people like me that have been working this long over this period of time and still retains the majority of their copyrighted material. I mean, most artists own a few pieces here or there. Stuff that they made before they started working, stuff that they made for like galleries or like fine art projects on the side. But most of their day-to-day work is owned by a corporation. And so anything that like strengthens that sense of ownership, it can be done under the auspice of like being for artists, but it's really dangerous in the sense that it's like potentially strengthening. It looks like it's trying to weaken AI companies, but all it's strengthening is like the massive corporate overlords that are already threatening us in a lot of, you know, labor issues that already exist. And it scares me. I really don't want to give more control over copyrights to companies like Disney and Microsoft. And that's exactly what a lot of this anti-AI advocacy is leading us towards. You know, what I'd rather instead is like, I would rather that artists have some negotiating power against these large companies. And that means collective action, that means unions. I've thought a long time about this because I've had a beef with some of these corporations going back 10 years. And I don't think that organizing a boycott would ever work. So people would ask, I had this blog post that came out 10 years ago about my frustrations with Wizards of the Coast and the way that they don't pay residuals the way that they used to back when the project was small. And people would say, well, what do you want to do about it? Do you want to like us to boycott it? And I was like, I don't know. I don't know what, because I don't think it's fans' obligation to boycott these companies for being bad employers. And there's no room for individuals to negotiate for better rates. people were like, well, if you don't like the rates, if you don't like the contracts, you should negotiate. But there is no negotiation. You either sign the contract and you sign away everything, or you hit the bricks. Those are the only two options. And so I thought about this for a long time, and then in light of like this rising amount of union action and the success these unions are having, especially in the entertainment industry, I've come to the conclusion that I really think that if people want to improve working conditions for artists, the only way to do it is collective action. I still don't understand how Disney was able to shut down the movie production of Mouse Guard due to the style being too similar to Pixar. That's not true. That's not what happened. The Mouse Guard, I actually know a little bit about this. The Mouse Guard movie, I don't think I'm talking out of line here, but the Mouse Guard movie was, I think, being produced by Fox, and then Disney bought Fox, and then they shut down basically all the Fox productions that were already like in progress. And Mouse Guard was one of them. So it wasn't that there was like, oh, it's too similar to it and therefore you can't copyright a style. They're like, oh, we're not going to be adding animated movies under our Fox label when we also already own Pixar that does animated movies. You see, like a lot of these companies, they look like they're in competition with each other, but they're all owned by the same handful of people. Like Mouse Guard, it's not like Disney was worried that like Fox was going to sue them. Disney owns Fox. As these companies continuously get larger and they suck up more and more IP, these issues become increasingly like dangerous for people who like sell their work into these labor forces. It's really, it's a scary time. And the threat is really not from startup technology companies. The threat is coming from the accumulation of IP, the accumulation of wealth inside these massive entertainment companies that make it nearly impossible for individual laborers to bargain with them. Doesn't Disney own like 70% of all Western entertainment media? I don't know what the number is. It's a lot. Does it matter that these contracts were signed before AI art existed? No, it doesn't. They own the copyrights to it, period. It doesn't matter whether there was AI rights being handed over or not. See, that was the way that like Adobe was able to claim that they were able to make an AI that was trained ethically, was because they're like, we have the copyrights to all the stuff that it was trained on. But the reason that they owned the copyrights for it was because they had contracts with, Creative Cloud. That all the people that like signed up for contracts to like sell stock images and stuff, they're like, oh yeah, those contracts allow us to already own all of that. And so we don't actually need to buy the rights to it because we already own the rights. And those contracts were signed pre-AI, but it doesn't matter. Like they already had such an extensive rights buyout that they didn't actually need to buy anything additional in order to claim that they had control over it. Disney's contracts are especially abusive. If they cover if you were to attempt to like claim ownership over your own work in a parallel dimension, somewhere down the line it ends with names like BlackRock. Sure. AI will be used to help coordinate these assemblies. I doubt it. I think what you need is people. You need people talking. If people are going to solve a problem like these kinds of labor problems, they need to communicate. They need to communicate. They need to organize. They need to see each other's humanity. Corporations aren't people. Even the people that run corporations, like, they can get cycled out. Like, Wizards of the Coast right now is sort of anti-AI. But, like, what about the next CEO? Is the next CEO going to be anti-AI? Right now they're like, oh, gross, somebody snuck an AI image into one of our D&D books. Well, what if the next CEO thinks that's the best idea and he fires all the art directors that don't like it? He could do that. I mean, it could happen. He or she. It's an equal opportunity sort of abuse. The whole thing can switch on a dime. I mean, that's what happened with it before. The first art director for Magic the Gathering hated the idea that they were going to build contracts that didn't have royalties built in. And he absolutely refused to push forwards with that scheme where they were going to be denying profit sharing back to the artists that built the product. And so they just fired him. And he spent every year since then bad-mouthing them for what he believes is stealing from all the artists that made them rich. And nobody cares what some, former Wizards employee thinks. He was at one point the voice of Wizards of the Coast for artists. And now he's just some cranky guy on the internet. Corporations aren't people. Staff can change. Ownership can change. Granting them ownership over our work is dangerous because we never know what the next person who's in charge is going to do with it. This whole subject's really scary. People get freaked out by it. The idea of going up against their own employers, artists are very scared by that typically. But I think that if many of the thought leaders in the space were all coordinate and all come together with a unified voice to say that these companies need to treat creative people better and that artists should stand together, have their voices heard in unison for the benefit of all, I think it would work. I think we could pull it off. Part of the reason I'm not organizing it personally is because I don't actually work for anybody. Especially tough in this economy and this job market. Sure. Also, hello. Yeah. I think, I'm 15 minutes over on this. I'm just poking away at it. Musing. I think that artists, if they coordinate, could accomplish amazing things for themselves and for all the generations that come afterwards. I believe in them. I'm a bit of an idealist when it comes to this stuff. Everyone's got an excuse why they think it's a bad idea, but I'm convinced. I believe, and I think that the world is better when creative people are rewarded for their work, treated seriously. I think we all benefit from it. I think everybody. I think even the companies probably would benefit. I think that was one of the big arguments about the whole WGA strike was that at the end of the day that if they're not going to staff writers to write TV shows and they're going to try to get robots to write the TV shows are going to be bad and it's going to ultimately poison the entire television industry. It's not only going to be bad for the people, who write these things, it's going to be bad for everyone involved in it, top to bottom. And that the only path to be able to produce, to keep television and movies alive and vital is to make sure that human beings are getting together and actually working on it. I think that's true. I think that's correct. And I think that the same bravery is going to be necessary of every creative industry that works in entertainment. And I think for the exact same reason that for these things to remain vital, they have to be made by people, and they have to be protected by the people that make them. Indie creators will rise to the top. Man, I doubt that. Being an indie creator is tough. It's tough. All right. I'm pretty much done with this thing. Pretty happy with it. What sucks about banding together to strike is that it's the very people who are striking that are getting hit really badly and not getting paid, while executives make all these sleazy, greedy, unethical decisions and still swimming in wealth. The benefit about if all the people that did RPG illustrations all banded together against WotC and Paizo, is that they weren't getting paid enough to live anyway. Oh, 2 raid candidates here. All right. How about brush for hire? One of the, like when I was like one of the top WotC illustrators, and my work was on their packaging. I was helping build worlds for them. I was illustrating all the cards they would give me. They were giving me the best paid cards in the set. I made $28,000 that year. Or maybe it was $23,000. It was below minimum wage still. So like if all the Magic illustrators were to if all the Magic illustrators were to lock hands and say no one should take a Magic illustration until these rights issues are established, then people might be out $10,000 over the course of a year, but no one's gonna go hungry. Like they've paid so poorly for so long. They've treated the entire thing as like a side hustle. It's always been for beer money. They're like building billions of dollars of value for this corporation, and they've been getting peanuts on the side. So they'll be out the peanuts for a period of time. But the idea is that if they can win these rights, they will be paid real money that will be life-changing for them. And that's the reason why they should do it. Wizards of the Coast is an old chestnut of mine, so it's easy with Bramp as an example. But I think the same thing is true in video games as well. I think that it pays decently well, but it underpays for the amount of value that artists add to the projects. And I think that if there was a union for it, things like crunch time could be fought against. I think that they would be able to have more profit sharing, more ownership of the value they create for the companies. The goal is not to bankrupt the game companies. The goal is to distribute the money that's going to people like Bobby Kotick back down into the people who actually make the products that Activision sells. Bobby Kotick's like one of, if not the best paid CEO in the entire world. Like, why? Other than the fact that like the people who make video games have allowed themselves to get conned out of their rightful share. Brought in on a texture artist to work on an MTG Netflix series, but unfortunately it was canceled. Yeah, WotC's not been really good at figuring out a way to get their licenses developed. They've been trying for a long time, and it's been another production ruined by the Russo brothers. Huh. I didn't know the Russo brothers had a track record like that. But yeah, they've been trying to get MTG developed into stuff for a long time, and it's something that I don't think that they have ever been very good at. Part of the problem is that Hasbro is really bad at investing in its employees, and they've been woefully understaffed for many, many years. So this idea of like, hey, we should develop our products into a series or a movie or whatever. Like they've been making so much money selling cardboard with a very small staff that the idea they'll like double the size of the staff and then expand into other markets is something that they've never had the bravery to be able to do. They keep cutting their own budgets and underpaying their people and making their turnover go too fast and all this kind of stuff. How can I make Huckleberry Art Academy grow? I don't know. Just stick around, hang out. I will give you an opportunity to buy stuff, don't worry. But yeah, I think that, across all the creative industries I've worked in, all the companies I've seen, there's been an underinvestment in creative people on the behalf of corporations, and it's cost them. It's cost them by having higher turnover, lower motivation, less sense of ownership of purpose over like the stuff that they make. And it's a lose-lose situation. The creative people get paid less and their quality of life is lower. They're, more financially insecure. And then the companies make worse products that perform worse in the market. And so I think that collective bargaining is ultimately good for the health of the entire industry, for everyone involved, even if the executives end up having to take a pay cut as part of it. So, that's my commie manifesto. Thanks for joining my TED Talk. I'm going to save this file out, and then I'm going to call it a day. We're going to go and raid... I'm gonna go and raid. Was it Brush for Hire? Yeah, my solution to this whole problem is that I just don't work for anyone, and I just make my own money, and I get to keep it. I don't have to worry about redistributing the wealth because I'm at the top of the pyramid of one people. You know, that's worked out well for me, and there's a path for that for other people too. But that's not the intended. Being a business owner and being a job creator or whatever is really not like what I would, say artists have to do. Like, it shouldn't be like, if you're going to demand better pay, you have to make your own job. That's a little unfair. What kind of communication and coordination tools do you think are good for organizing this? I'm not sure Discord is the answer. I don't know. I've never organized a union. There's a lot of resources out there for how to organize a union. I mean, listen, Amazon workers, Starbucks workers have managed to figure out how to do it. If some of the most replaceable workers or some of the most replaceable jobs have been able to unionize, then the highly specialized position of like concept artists and fantasy artists, fantasy illustrators could absolutely pull it off. Absolutely pull it off. Studies. I have total confidence that the incredibly specialized laborers in this business would be able to make it happen. It wouldn't just be a Discord. You would have to actually take steps to like form a union. There are legal recognized ways of creating a legally recognized union, and a lot of that comes from like, hey, somebody needs to actually say we're making a union. Then people need to go out and like recruit influential people to get them to join the union and to get them to advocate for the union. And it's just like a lot of building relationships and building a case for it. And like, again, this is exactly the sort of thing I would love to do, except for the part where I don't work in any of these industries. I don't work for freelance for any of these companies I've mentioned. I don't work in games. I don't work in film. I work for myself. I'm working for Patreon. Not even really. I get a 1099 from like Patreon, and like I make all my money on Shopify, so like I can't organize this. Like, people who work in these spaces need to organize it. And not like art directors, the most influential people, just anybody who are really part of that labor force can go ahead and seize the means of production. I fucking dare you to do it. Like, I would love to root for it. I would love to just, shout about how great it is that, people are succeeding in this space. I want to see it happen. So, if you're inspired by this, like, feel free to take steps. But I just, I really want better for creative people. That's why I care. Because I don't have a dog in the race. All right, let's get this raid going. Top this off so it doesn't. I don't get myself into more trouble ranting. Thanks everyone for joining me. We're going to be rating Brush for Hire now. Let's see, how bad was this this rant killing my numbers? Ooh, not too bad. Somebody out there likes it. All right, I'll see you guys on the other side.